There are certain features on MiSTer I/O boards that are probably not used as much, such as the ADC tape input and the real-time clock support. The ADC input port allows you to read data stored as audio. This means that you can connect a tape drive and read software and games stored in cassette tapes. The real-time clock board keeps track of the current date and time if you're not connected to the internet. It can also provide correct timestamps to data written on the SD card if you are offline. If you're interested in using these features and also want a list of cores that support them, User PGI Menno in the MiSTer forums has a thread that keeps track of what cores support them. It's really convenient to check out this post and not go through every core using trial and error. It's an old post, but I just noticed it and I feel that it will be very useful for my viewers. I myself want to try out the ADC tape input feature, but I haven't had enough time to do so. So referring to this post will be very helpful when I eventually get to it. An FM Towns core is currently in development by user Pew on the MiSTer FPGA forums. The FM Towns was a Japanese computer by Fujitsu intended for multimedia applications and PC games. It had some really impressive 2D graphical capabilities and hosted excellent ports of arcade games. There was also a console version of this computer called the FM Towns Marty, so maybe a core for that will come too. An alpha is currently available for download. Graphics aren't fully implemented except for sprites and RAM, so expect garbled graphics. Some versions of DOS should also work. SCSI and CD-ROMs do not work, only floppy disk images work in the D88 format. The Express Raider core being developed by Pierco is showing some progress. First, it was showing that the VRAM was being written to. Then, a post showed graphics being displayed. So far, everything is running in simulation to help lay the groundwork for a future MiSTer core. Express Raider is a game where you control a train robber that's out to steal from running locomotives. If you have an arcade cabinet and want to configure MiSTer to work great for it, RetroRGB released a video about setting up a MiSTer's user interface to work great with arcade cabinets. You are shown two different setups, one for regular landscape setups and another setup dedicated for vertically scrolling arcade games. Check out the video for full instructions. A beta core for some alpha Denshi arcade games is going to be released soon. Darren O and Attract 17 are working on a few small things before the release. The core is first targeting the game Gang Wars, and once it's released, you will be able to download the core using the Update All script. Without Update All, you will need to install the core manually. Regarding upcoming fixes to the PlayStation core, the developer created a test program for capturing data that helps measure timings for gamepads connected to a PlayStation 1. Thanks to this program and the community, gamepad timings on the core selectable gamepads are about the same as the real ones. It's easy to get carried away with fixing things like graphics and sound, so it's nice to see that other parts of the hardware like input are getting attention. There is also a fix for the PlayStation's motion decoder. The motion decoder is responsible for full motion video playback, and this update fixed a bug that was happening in Star Wars during full motion playback. The guys at the Texas Shot Taker Twitter account have donated a non-working CPS3 board to Hotego. It was important to obtain a non-working board so some destructive chip analysis would be able to be performed on it. All the work that's going to be done on this PCB will help with preservation, and if there's enough FPGA space available, it can bring a CPS3 port to MiSTer. Shane McRetro took the challenge of bringing the Geocities archives back to life. Geocities used to be a place where you can host your very own website and was very popular back in the 90s. Shane was able to obtain an archive and get the archive working on a Raspberry Pi. He really wanted to use some period correct hardware and software to browse it, but didn't have any classic PCs. This is where the MiSTer comes in. He was able to configure Windows 98 and AO46 to connect to the Raspberry Pi and browse the Geocities server hosted on it. This was accomplished by the MiSTer dialing into the Raspberry Pi using a real 14.4K modem. The setup is pretty complicated. It involved using two modems, a gateway, the Raspberry Pi, and MiSTer. The entire journey is documented on a forum post, which I'll provide in the description. He also has a YouTube video demonstrating the entire setup. Jimmy Stones is creating a core for the arcade game Clean Sweep. Now, thanks to Arcade Blogger, he was able to get in contact with the original creator of the game. They had really helpful communications, and in those communications, Jimmy Stones was able to confirm all the things he thought were wrong. This should help save a lot of time with the core's future development. He also went back to the Bridge Companion core to compare the core's timing with the real device. Hotego had finally released the beta for Sega's OutRun. It took a while, but the complexity of the hardware that has some powerful sprite pushing capabilities was the reason for the delays. On Patreon, you can read the details on how the arcade game's hardware works. The beta is only for a Patreon subscriber, but as with all of Hotego's cores, he releases them to the public as soon as they are stable enough. Subscribers to his Patreon can automatically download it using the Update All script. Sega Superscalar arcade games are on the top of my wish list for MiSTer. Now we have OutRun and Super Hangout in playable form, and I really look forward to seeing what else will come in the future. Ultimate MiSTer, who's a vendor of MiSTer product, has been notified by Jurassic that starting in January, the price of the DE10 Nano will increase again. Jurassic is the manufacturer of the DE10 Nano, which is the heart of a MiSTer setup. What the price increase will be is not mentioned, but if you are planning on getting a MiSTer setup, you will want to get it before January before the price increase. Another miscellaneous MiSTer fixes and updates are, for the PCXT core, there was a fix for the Tandy palette that affected Marble Madness, Alley Cat, and other games. Kitsune-san implemented the following fixes. The bus speed was improved. There was also a bug fix for the MCL86 microcode, and the BIOS writable signal was also fixed. Microcore Labs also fixed an opcode in the MCL86 microcode. UMB A00H is now an option. This will help some games that use this segment to detect an EGA video card. Microcore Labs added a fixed overflow flag. Because of this, Landmark System Speed Test 6.0 works now. A bug fix was implemented for the floppy disk drive chip select, and for Tandy, the address between VRAM and RAM is mirrored. This gets the Simpsons arcade game running in Tandy 1000 mode. And finally, for the Inferno arcade core, Aim plus Fire was fixed in 2-player mode. That's it for other updates. Please also try to support Sorge, the maintainer of the MiSTer project, and other MiSTer developers and contributors on support platforms such as Patreon and Ko-fi. Their hard work allows us to enjoy this amazing project. And regarding the Analogue Pocket news, after some time, I really found a good workflow for it. So I decided to put any future news about the Analogue Pocket onto its own video. Those videos will start releasing on Wednesdays. I also have had a Steam Deck for a couple of months, and I'm planning on creating some retro-related content for it. Let me know in the comments what sort of videos you would like to see for it. So that's it for this episode. I provided links to all my sources in the description. Make sure you also check out RetroRGB.com to see my MiSTer News videos in blog form and to get more retro-related content. And if possible, support them on Patreon too. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a like, and if you want to see more content like this, hit the subscribe button and its bell icon so you can get notified of future videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll speak to you next time.